So when you think of whenever a traditional holistic medicine guru or even people who study this scientifically, when they think of adaptogens, the hormone that comes to mind is cortisol. Always. It's always cortisol. And now what's interesting about cortisol is that it is not necessarily bad. Because without cortisol, we won't even get up in the morning, right? It's like we won't wake up. We'll just die. And so the need of cortisol to take action, right? It's a glucocorticoid in the animal literature, and in humans we call this cortisol. This aspect of stress, right? Whenever you think of cortisol, oh, stress. Oh, you should reduce your cortisol because you have high stress. This is a very, very naive way of looking at life, right? I know I talked to JMO about this at the gym yesterday. Alia Crum, who's a Stanford scientist, she did a study where they looked at all different categories of people and they asked them, what do you think of stress? What's your relationship with stress? And every category, right? Teachers, doctors, scientists, office workers, garbage men, whatever, they all said stress is bad. We don't want stress. We hate stress. Except one group, which said, we love stress. We welcome stress. We use stress for good. And that group, can you guess, Andre, what type of group would say that?
I don't know what kind of group you'd be mentioning.
Like what type of...
Could be a few guesses.
Yeah. Like what category of career or people would say, we love stress?
Well,
Bring it
I'd
on.
say someone in the military, for example.
Right. That's it. The Navy SEALs.
Well,
So the Navy SEALs said, they were the only category that said that. Now, what's interesting about cortisol is, or even about stress is, there's acute stress and chronic stress. With chronic stress, and this is stuff I learned from Sapolsky's books, is that in chronic stress, you have stress for like 30 years, right? It's like traffic jams every day for 30 years, and now you have chronic stress because every time you step on the wheel, you are stressed because you're like, oh my God, there's gonna be a traffic jam again today. It's gonna be bumper to bumper traffic. Whereas acute stress is good. This is like if you're lifting weights at the gym, that's acute stress, that's good. If you have a challenge that you've given yourself, like in the Afro D Nation on Facebook, we give ourselves challenges, obviously, push-ups and pull-ups and abs and all that. But even day to day, if you give yourself the challenge that, hey, I'm gonna wake up at this time, or like me, I write down my schedule, it's right there on the whiteboard right now. I write down my schedule for the day every day, right? I wake up at 6 to 7:30, I'm gonna do this. 7:30 to 9, I'm gonna do this. And every time I fulfill this challenge, I put a check mark, right? So that type of challenge is acute stress. It's good. It's what makes us progress as a species. And what adaptogens are doing, from my perspective, again, unfortunately, there aren't many studies with this stuff, but from my perspective, from the literature, I found that adaptogens will balance out this line between chronic and acute stress. So the chronic stress will become lower, right? The constant increase in cortisol, during the day will become lower, and your ability to respond to it will become better and improve. It'll improve. And the acute stress, which you want, it'll balance that too. It'll normalize that. So you continue to have acute stress, which is what you want. Because if you reduce cortisol in acute and chronic, then you're not going to be able to get up. You're not going to be able to do anything in life. You're not going to be able to make progress and challenge yourself and do difficult things, which are great. So that's how I see adaptogens. It's this very interesting type of herb, and there's two of these in Afro D, by the way, right? Tonkat Ali and Shazandra berry, two of the best. And it'll allow your body to respond to stress and deal with stress in the proper manner, specifically by modulating cortisol levels, keeping them high when you want them high, and decreasing them when you need to decrease them. And the adaptogens just know what to do, and they adjust to your current hormonal level, your current cortisol level, day to day. And it's a brilliant feat of nature.
No, that makes total sense. I think you encapsulated it like perfectly, because also in what I felt in my experience, taking Afro D at my old job, I had my Afro D up in my cabinet, take it every morning, right? When I got down to open up the emails. And that's the one thing that I tell people all the time is what it helped me do on a consistent basis was deal with all the BS going on my screen that I had to take care of, all the people, all their emotions injected into each single email directed towards me. and not just be overwhelmed by it. I was able to see it, recognize it, and if I did feel emotional, I was able to just have it roll off my back, roll off my shoulder, and act and do what needed to be done. Meanwhile, most of my coworkers and even my past self, I'd probably just sit there at my desk and probably just gripe about it for like 30 minutes before I did anything with it. So yeah, I totally love how you mentioned that it just modulates that stress like to the response to get it taken care of and normalized. Like that's the thing, is the chronic stress is the killer, but of course, even our mindset and what our neural feedback is back and forth with our body states, that determines if we're going to take action to solve it or not, and ultimately get rid of what's, ailing us, which is huge. So I love how you put that. That makes total sense to me.
Great summation. Overall works so well. I just got an image of my head of like someone getting excited to take Aphro-D. Like there's this excitement behind taking something and feeling really good about something. I remember certain things would stimulate my brain if I looked at something I liked, and I looked at a product I liked, or a food I liked, or a label I liked. I would get excited just thinking about having it and holding it and being able to like use it. And it was something that I think I remember getting made fun of when I was younger, especially from my mom, because I would like have stuff out at my house that like got me excited, like in my room, that like stimulated me to grow. And these things were just reminders of things I could take, things I could do to mitigate stress. It all came down to stress. Like they eased me, they soothed me. And I think there is an extreme with that, like hoarding. But in that circumstance, it was definitely very beneficial. And then as I got older and started taking and trying new things, I was able to start realizing that, oh, I could experiment with different things and take these different things and mitigate those feelings throughout my whole body that aren't getting rid of them, but getting used to them. For a while there, I was soothing myself with all these things that I enjoyed looking at and felt good about. But then when I realized that I could use this energy and use that nervousness and excitement and stress and use that to be able to create and to be able to do more things and work at my goals and work in my life more efficiently and stronger, then that changed it completely, because that's when I stopped complaining about things that I wasn't able to have or didn't feel and that totally shifted my mentality on it. And Farhan and I, especially now with the gratitude as well, that's a huge implication for everything that we're making moves on right now, to just be grateful for it. And grateful for everybody here today as well, to be able to go through this information and get this super download of of like, I don't even know, I think that was 3 hours of just straight up raw dog talk.
It went by quick. I mean, I think just like this podcast with all the different ins and outs that we talked about, there's a lot people will get value wise, but also in the same breath, like, not to perk up Aphro-D further, but that's like everything behind it. And you don't even have to worry about that. Like, you don't even have to spike your cortisol to realize, hey, this is the highest quality crap that I could use. And that's ultimately what you're getting. Like, you get the amount of effort that everyone put in together at the end of the day. So, I mean, from day one, I just want to say thank you to Farhan for formulating it, doing all the sourcing, so I don't have to worry about it, because it wasn't even on my radar. And I think that kind of tracks with a lot of customers. Like, these things are not on their radar. And yeah, they're not experts on this. They're not experts on the sourcing all the way down to the mineral and nutrient content of the soils. It's just not even on their radar. So to have that work done for someone else and that love and care is just huge. And that's how we ultimately express love, is through information and telling others how we feel, all the way down to just things to incorporate in their lifestyle. So I think this will help a lot of people for sure.
You're welcome, man. Very, very welcome. And thank you for the support for all these years. You're an inspiration to me too. So it's always a mutual thing. And thank you for leading the community and obviously writing this badass book, best diet book ever, Androgen Diet. And also again, thank you to JMO for hosting us and asking the hard questions. And really, I mean, I went back in history, my entire life's history. I was having all these images of different events through the questions both of you asked. And for me, I'm very grateful to have you two and just to share this with two brothers. And I mean, it's rare for me to be able to do this. I mean, so thanks to you two to being part of the community, a huge part of the community, and keeping me, keeping me sane and keeping me at that level and not letting me slack off or any of that. You really keep me on my toes. So, and hey, we're just getting started. There's a lot of value to give, man. Insane value coming. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks once
Right on.
again, Doc, for having me on. Thanks, JMO.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate both of you. Appreciate the time.